Hi everybody! It's comics time, and what a month. We got a lot of issues to go through, so we're just gonna hot step right into it. The next two issues of Void Rivals, number 17 and number 18, great section of this story. We're really heating up, we're really rounding the bend towards the end in this story. So basically, if you remember, Celila was deep inside the sacred ring looking for Zerda Tryon, and she came across that matrix or whatever it was that talked to her and said, if you want to find Zerda, all you need to do is keep walking, keep on your path. And so at the start of this issue, she finds Zerda Tryon, who is basically very injured. She's missing her lower half. She's just kind of lying there, and she goes into a big story to Celila about how this all came to be. So back on Cybertron, her and Alpha Tryon, before they were Tryons, which means you've gained so much wisdom, you're a very wise bot, so you gain the title of Tryon. So her and Alpha Tryon, when they were young, before they were Tryons, were struggling on Cybertron under the yoke of Quintesson rule. The Quintessons were attacking Cybertron, they were ruling Cybertron, and basically subjugating all the Transformers. So they were fighting back. As Alpha and Zerda gained this wisdom, they started turning the tide of the war in their favor. But the Quintessons broke out their final weapon, their WMD, if you will, Goliant. Now, we've heard Goliant mentioned earlier on in this series, but not very often. So Goliant is basically, think Galactus from Marvel, like this huge being that's the size of, you can't even fathom its size. So the Quintessons sent this Goliant character to Cybertron to finish their dirty work. So Zerda Tryon decided, I'm going to lure him away and save Cybertron and all my friends, and if I have to sacrifice myself, I have to sacrifice myself. So she takes off in a ship, lures Goliant away, and lures him towards this star, which he starts eating, much like a Unicron kind of thing. He starts devouring this star, which is going to take him a long time. It's a star after all. And it distracts him. And so she basically puts in plan, she manipulates, so where this star is being consumed, Agoria and Zertonia are two nearby planets, and they are getting sucked in to like the decaying orbit of this star that Goliant is munching on. So basically she's doomed these two planets. So Zerda manipulates the actions of the Agorians and the Zertonians to build their half of the sacred ring. And these rings basically between these two planets came together surrounding Goliant and the star, and basically trapped him within it. In the end, when he was getting close to finishing the star, it created a black hole, sucked him into it, and then the rings kind of came over it and trapped everything in there. So this sacred ring that the Agorians and the Zertonians inhabit are basically a prison for Goliant. And Zerda Tryon manipulated the ring so that it would generate energon from the black hole, which she could then send to Cybertron to save her planet. The only problem is she got so injured in her debacle with Goliant that she could never make it home. So she ended up still manipulating the actions of the Zertonians and the Agorians. More specifically, the Zertonians, she had more of a link with them, and that's kind of why they called themselves Zertonians. And kind of manipulated events over the years. Now, once she finishes that story, there's several other storylines going on. Proximus, who we haven't seen since he basically got, well, we've seen him a little bit since his battle with Springer where he got really injured. He met that little kid, I can't remember his name, and he kind of bided his time as he healed and stuff like that. He finally makes a play on Zertonia and defeats all the guards and sits on the throne, and he's like, I'm back, bitches, like, do my bidding sort of thing. And he's having a bit of a rest on the throne. And the Agorians, in the meantime, Derek is brought before his father because Derek and Celila want to push unity between the two peoples, but Derek's father, who is ruling Agoria, after he threw into jail the guy that was ruling it, because he was on the side of unity, so they overthrew him and threw him in jail. So Derek's father, they have a chat, and he basically explains to Derek that we can't have unity. Unity will free Goliath, and he will kill us. But and these messages have been passed down through the sacred texts over the years, and this is how they've been interpreted. But Zerda Tryon knows better. She's telling Salila, you guys need to unify and release Goliath, because after all that debacle with the star and being trapped in the black hole, he's now in his weakest state. This is the time to release him and destroy him. So it's being interpreted differently. Like Zerda Tryon knows, well, he's weak, we can destroy him, but the Agorians have interpreted it as Goliath's released, we're fucked, sort of thing, right? So that's why the unity has been kind of a hot button issue. So Derek's dad explains this to him, and Derek kind of comes on board with it and being like, oh, okay, well, if that's what it says, it makes sense, whatever. And then the other thing that's going on is the Pythona, the sect of the G.I. Joe aspect of this story. I'm still sick, but I'm almost better. They're on a mission to do something, I forget what it is, but they stumble across in space a Quintesson ship, one of those one that looks like a screw or a spiral or whatever. They see it charging through space, and they're like, I think we need to correct course. This is intriguing. So they're chasing after the Quintesson ship. So basically these kind of storylines unfold until Zerda Tryon bestows upon Salila a newfound power, so that she can help bring about unity. So she kind of after she makes these changes, she has like a new looking suit, and Salila's like, well, now I need to get back to Derek and talk to him about all this so that we can bring about unity and bring Goliath down. And so, but he's all the way across the other side of the planet, or on top of the ring, whatever. And Zerda Tryon's like, all you need to do is wish it, and you'll be there. So she's like, well, I want to go see Derek. So then all like her suit starts being changed and stuff like that. And she basically travels through the planet, sort of thing, and arrives in the throne room on Agoria. And Derek's like, Salila, whoa, you look different. And she's like, Derek, I got so much to tell you. But then Derek's dad, seeing the Zertonian in their midst all of a sudden, is like, traitor! Derek, execute her! And that's how this second issue ends. So Derek is being told by his father to execute his new best friend from Zertonia, sort of thing. So that's where everything leaves off. It's a bit of a cliffhanger. That was issue 17-18. So I'm going to guess they've targeted this series for maybe 20 issues. So we've got, I'm thinking we got 2 issues left. So I think the next issue, they'll probably sort out the whole unification thing and either bring it about or not bring it about, whichever way they're going to go with the story. And then the final issue is going to be them dealing with Goliath one way or another to finish the series. Or it could be stretched out for longer. I don't know. But that's kind of my thoughts based on how the story has unfolded so far and the point they're at now. Oh, the other thing that was going on, this was a more lighthearted aspect of the storyline, but Hot Rod and Springer, after being reunited in the last issue or two, were just talking about, oh, what's going on at Cybertron? Oh, have you seen Optimus Prime lately? Oh, we should probably get back there, blah, blah, blah. So they're having a little powwow, old buddies, old Autobot buddies having a bit of a chat. And that is it for Void Rivals. I'm hoping that next month we get a bit more clarity on where we are towards the end of the story, and I can't wait to wrap it up. Not because I'm tired of it, but because I love where the story's going, and I just can't wait to see what happens. Next up, we got some Turtles, as usual. 4 issues. Issue 23 of the ongoing Saturday Morning Adventures series. In this one, it's focused on Donatello. He basically, it starts off with kind of a brief sequence where he's dressed up in like a tuxedo, like he's a secret agent, and he's battling this kind of bro above this floating disc thing that looks like a, Simon Says That board game or electronic game back in the day. and they're having a bit of a repartee before Donnie tries to bring him down, but this guy gets the last laugh and shoots him with this beam out of his helmet that knocks Donnie off the thing, and he's plummeting towards the earth. So then it's like, how did I get here, you ask? And then it flashes back. So Donnie is at a little market getting supplies for his brothers because the other three turtles are all sick at home, and he's looking for some pizza-flavored cough drops to bring back to them. So as he exits the store, he's confronted by Dirk Savage, who is some sort of, I think he was some sort of bounty hunter or mercenary kind of type. But then he explains to Donnie, he teleports them to their base and explains to Donnie that he decided to go legit and work for this new agency called Dude. I forget what it stands for, but they're good guys, basically. So he explains that this guy that Donnie was battling at the start of the issue, his name is Bro Dude, I think it is what it is. He is targeting various locations in the world. I think Victoria, somewhere in Mexico, a couple of spots in the States maybe, of where Dude has assets and stuff. But Dirk Savage says to Donatello, our forces are going to be stretched thin covering these locations. There's going to be nobody here to take on Bro Dude here in Manhattan. So Donnie's like, okay, no problem. But like, how do I get to him? It's like, here's a jetpack. So Donnie's dressed up in a tux with a jetpack, and that's when he goes to confront this Bro Dude on top this floating Simon Says thing. So warp to current times, and Donnie's in mid-fall, but the turtles show up in the turtle blimp, and Donnie's like, how did you guys know? It's like, you had your turtle comm open this whole time. We heard everything. So then the turtles take the fight, the four of them, to Bro Dude, and eventually lay him low. But in the process, his floating disc thing gets damaged, and it starts plummeting towards the city. So Donnie has to do the heroics and make sure that it is steered into the bay and lands in the water and does no harm. And at the very end of the issue, we see the three turtles recovered, but now Donnie is in bed sick. He caught it from the bros during the fight, and now he's the one who's down and out. We also have issue 24 of the Saturday Morning Adventure series. In this one, it goes back to some ongoing stuff. Krang and Hob are in Krang's lair or whatever, and Hob is working on the trans-dimensional portal thing to try and get Shredder, Bebop, and Rocksteady. They're still in that kind of ghost corporeal state sort of thing that they've been in for a while now, and Hob is attempting to bring them back. So he makes a go at it, and he manages to bring back Bebop and Rocksteady, and Krang gets this really awesome body, even better than his normal one. So he's all excited about that, but Shredder is still in his ghostly state, and he's pissed. Now this sequence happens, and meanwhile the turtles are patrolling the rooftops as they do, and they hear some stuff, and they find these they don't find them. They hear something, and it's actually the after effects of Krang's or Hobbs' trans-dimensional portal issue. Now, while the turtles are patrolling, there's some guys dressed up like the turtles that are doing crimes. I don't know if they're purposely trying to frame the turtles or whatever, but that's basically what they're doing. But Hobbs' little experiment with the trans-dimensional portal brings back some turtles from a different dimension, and they're evil. They wear black leather jackets, they got black bandanas over their face, and I think they're only missing, there's only 3 of them though. I can't remember which one's missing. One of the 4 isn't with them. So these bad turtles stumble across the robber turtles, and they get into a fracas and whatever, and eventually the regular turtles, the real turtles, get the drop on them, and but the bad turtles steal their turtle van, but Donnie's like, I planned for it, check this out, and he's got the van all automated and basically locks them in and knocks them out with like poison gas, and it allows them to do as they will with these guys. And what they do is Donnie sends these 3 bad turtles to the Dimension X golf course or something like that, where the little genie guy is playing golf, and the turtles get in his way and pisses him off. So then the little genie guy eventually deals with them and sends them to wherever he sends them, maybe back to their own reality, I don't remember. But so that problem's down. And then once that is all solved, and everything goes to rights, April O'Neil is able to report on the news that the turtle robbers were attempting to frame the turtles, and everything goes back to rights. She clears the turtles' name in the news and stuff like that. And as the issue closes, we see Krang taking hold of Hob and being like, okay, now that I've got my new body, it's time we renegotiate our deal of you working for me. And Hob's like, okay, fair enough. And Krang is like, I want full control of the Pantheon. And so Krang is adding more minions to his mix, and there's nothing old Hob can do about it. I used to do a better Krang when I was little, just like I used to be able to do a perfect Axl Rose imitation. But as I got older, and the throat it didn't work anymore. Next up, the 7th and final issue of The Night Watcher. So this one picks up as Jennika is fighting that kind of essence that came out of her. And she's using her past traumas of having a terrible childhood, abusive father, blah, 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 to relate certain lessons to this creature. And about how, you can't just be running around causing all this trouble. You need to be responsible, blah, 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 and care about people and whatever. And the things like, well, look at you. You're all on your own right now. Everybody that loves you, you've shunned them and turned them away. Sheena's off and God knows where on a musical tour or whatever. So this goes on for a while, and eventually she gets through to the creature, and it eventually says like, okay, just put me back to sleep, please. And that's kind of the end of that. But then Jennika goes back to her hideout, and she still has that bear, the panda bear that was injured that became a mutant. After defeating him an issue or two ago, maybe 2 or 3 issues ago, he's like, so you're gonna set me free so that we can settle this once and for all? And she's like, I've got a better idea. You're going to help me take down a District Attorney Hale, who's the big fat slob asshole that is causing all sorts of pandemonium throughout the city with all of his really abrupt ways of controlling people and wanting to bring down mutants and such. So she's like, all about the ins and outs, who works for him, how they do their business, whatever. And he's like, you think I'm going to do this out of the goodness of my heart? And she's like, no, you're going to do it because you want to show that you can do it and that you can be better than them and bring them down and beat them, sort of thing, right? So that looks like it's going to happen. And then she says, I'll be back in a little while. I got to go take care of some business. So she goes out into the city and she's doing good deeds for fellow mutants and stuff like that. And all the while she's carrying this backpack, and you can see these 2 little white eyes sticking out. And it looks like the creature that was the Night Watcher along with her. But it's all scrunched in this backpack, so it's just a little thing. But it's in there, and I don't know exactly what's going on there. And then eventually the last thing she does is she goes and finds Sheena in her trailer at whatever city she's in on her group's tour. And I think she's about to, set things right, so to speak. So that kind of ends on a happy, hopeful note to what is a pretty grim story otherwise. Speaking of grim stories, the regular Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles series, ongoing series, issue number 8. In this one, the Turtles were all reunited from their various, where they were before things started going all to hell. And they're in Manhattan, back in Manhattan, but they're being hunted. Nobody likes them. Nobody wants them there. And the team isn't getting along. There's lots of arguing and strife. But Donatello's by far the worst. Leonardo thinks he's gone crazy. He's all skinny and gaunt, and he goes out every night, and Leonardo doesn't know what he's doing. And in the meantime, we see D.A. Hale having this meeting where he's telling all of his cronies to wear all these animal masks and go out into the streets and cause all sorts of chaos, do petty crime and stuff like that. I don't know whether he's trying to set up mutants or make a statement against mutants, whatever, but he's ruining the city with his power trip. And Leonardo realizes one night when he follows Donnie that Donnie's putting down all these people that are doing this and trying to keep the city safe. And they get into an argument, and Leonardo's like, this is just petty crime. Like, Hale is the one that's causing all this. We need to get to the root of the problem. And they keep arguing, whatever. They get into an actual fight. And a pretty violent fight, and then go their separate ways. And eventually, Leonardo goes back to the lair and tries to apologize to Donatello, but they find that he's left a little note saying, goodbye, take care of Splinter for me. And Splinter was a little dead rat that Donnie was carrying around, which made them all think he was crazy. Like, it's not Splinter, it's just a dead regular rat. Like, what the hell is he doing? And at the end of the issue, we see Donnie walk up to one of the foot soldiers outside of, I think, Hale's headquarters or whatever, and saying, I think I should be in a cage, sort of thing. So he's basically turning himself in. Now, there are a couple other minor things that are going on. We see April O'Neil in some back alleys looking for somebody. We don't know exactly what's going on there. And then the other thing is that a couple of foot soldiers approach Bebop and Rocksteady, who are standing guard outside the door to Karai's headquarters. And the foot soldiers are like, we need to see Karai. Like, Hale is using us as like goons, and that's not what the Foot Clan does. That's not what we stand for. We need Karai to intervene and get us out of this mess and whatever. And Bebop and Rocksteady are like, sorry boys, she's not seeing anybody right now, can't do. And then the foot soldiers put up a bit of a stink. So then, I can't remember if it was Bebop, I think it was Rocksteady, takes the guy's head and against the wall. And then at the last frame of that sequence, we see kind of him kind of going in this green aura coming out of him. So I'm not sure what's going on there, but it's I think the shit's about to hit the fan in there with this storyline, with Hale and everything, and we'll see what Karai's been up to, because we know she was turned into that snake dragon thing, or partially anyways. So I'm not sure where all these loose ends are going to tie together and stuff. But yeah, they sure turned the turtles dark. Just like in the Harry Potter movies, when I can't remember which story it was, but the three of them were all kind of turning on each other, and there was so much tension and stuff. I hate it when the good guys get on each other, and it makes me uncomfortable. And this is kind of what this story is doing to me, to see the four brothers kind of at each other's throats all the time. I don't like it. All right, you turkeys, what do you think is next? That's right, Transformers, issue 19 to be exact. It seems weird only having one issue of Transformers for so long now. There used to be all these team ups and stuff, but it's been pretty dry. So I hope they, like Turtles, there's always tons of crossovers and stuff, but Transformers has been pretty slim. Pretty slim. I don't like it. I don't like it. Anyways, this one focuses, as you can see, all on Megatron, his past. Well, recent, I don't know how recent, but basically it opens up with Megatron being captured by the Quintessons, a particular Quintesson named Desimir. He has captured Megatron, and he is putting him through this trial. And he's like, you are small, you are weak. My master wanted me to capture you and do this to you to show how little you are. And Megatron's like, I'm not little. And so they put him through this trial, so he's got to fight off all these Sharkticons, and he can't do it. And then the one time he is able to do it in the end, one of the Quintessons, I can't remember if it's Desimir or not, turns into like this big mecha dragon monster, which bitch slaps the Christ out of Megatron. So he keeps having to redo this trial over and over again. And by the time he gets through like 500 times, Desimir is finally like, my master has said you have concluded the trial. It's over, and your reward is that you get a new a matrix to offset the one carried by the Prime. So obviously Optimus Prime. So Prime has the matrix of leadership. Megatron gets this matrix of evil, whatever it is. And when it goes into him and fuses with him, it grants him an alternate form. When he was fighting in the trials, he turned into this big tank. But this matrix grants him a new alternate form, and when the smoke clears, it's Megatron in his little gun form. You know, when Starscream sometimes carries him and shoots him, it's his little gun form. So that the result of the trials was this matrix, which allowed him to turn into this little gun, which has this hugely powerful capability, right? So, so Desimir is like, great, done, here's your form, way to go. And Megatron like basically exerts mental command over Desimir and it's like, pick me up. And he's like, no. And he's picking him up. He's like, now blast him. And no. And then Desimir blasts the big mecha dragon thing and destroys it. And he's all upset. So Megatron obviously had super power to influence this guy's actions and stuff like that. So then it kind of, at the end, it kind of concludes with showing Megatron with his comrades. I think Shockwave, Soundwave are there. In the last frame, we see Starscream kind of like an action shot looking, and he's got Megatron, the gun form of Megatron, in his hand, sort of thing. So it's basically like an origin story of how Megatron got his alt mode, which is one of the strangest alt modes of all the Transformers, but also pretty fucking awesome. Last up, G.I. Joe, potentially my favorite. That's why I saved them for last. We got 4 issues of Joe's today. That's more than usual, but it's because if you remember last month, there was one issue that was a silent mission, and I explained the history of the whole silent mission thing, and it focused on a character named Beachhead. They were planning on doing 5 of these issues on various characters, and they were releasing them 1 week at a time, sort of thing. So over that last month, the rest of the 4 came out, so that's what we've got today. So the first one focuses on Jinx. And in this one, basically, it takes place in 20 seconds. So at the top of each page is a timer countdown. It's starting at 20 seconds and counting down. So basically, we see Jinx enter this Cobra hangar. I think there's a Night Raven there. There's some diesel fuel. She plants a bomb, 20 seconds. And then she starts to exfiltrate. She runs into a Crimson Guardsman, has to take him out before he can slap the alarm. And then it just showcases her exfiltration from this facility. She runs into a platoon of Crimson Guardsmen this time, jumps down a stairwell, and then runs into this big beefy guy who she gets into more of an extended tussle with, and he gives her more of a challenge. And in the end, she pops out of a hatch to the outside world. He's still on her, but she finally dispatches him at the corner of a building, and then just as the bomb goes off, she is able to jump off of a ledge or something like that and get to safety out of the blast radius of this facility as she brings it down. She was... I had so many favorite G.I. Joe characters when I was younger. Like, I just love that show. I love the action, and I just love the cast of characters. It was such a deep show in terms of character. And Jinx was introduced in the G.I. Joe movie from 1986, I believe it was. And there was a whole bunch of new Joes released in that movie, because just like with Transformers, more chance to sell new toys, right? And she was a little red ninja, and I really, really enjoyed her character. And I played with that toy a lot. I'm not even sure if I went into my suitcase of Joes what kind of shape she'd be in at this point, but that's why we have the G.I. Joe Classified series now, right? I can upgrade all these years later. And she just might be on the way, just to give you a little hint at what's to come. But yeah, I really enjoyed the Jinx character, and I love that G.I. Joe movie and all the characters it introduced. Next up, Duke, of course, got one. This one was a little confusing without words. So, I'm assuming it was Cobra Island. We see Duke kind of crawl out of the water on an island shore, and he starts traipsing through the jungle, takes out a few guys with sniper shots, and then he reaches a waterfall, and he's preparing to kind of make his way down, but this big, a more beefy guy searches him out, and they get into a pretty vicious battle. This guy's even like biting Duke on the neck and shit. The guy's a bit of a savage. They go over the waterfall together. The fight continues until eventually Duke puts a knife right in the guy's fucking eye. But he still doesn't go down yet. He eventually does, but it took a good long while. So then as he continues on his way, Duke finally comes to the facility on Cobra Island that he's after. And at the start of the issue, we saw a set of dog tags in his hands with a name on it, and some flashbacks to him and this guy together after a mission, celebrating, laughing, that sort of thing. So we think he's doing this to avenge this guy or something. I don't know. So he gets into this facility. It looks like a bioweapons facility. It's kind of like vats of green shit. Kind of like when the Joker fell into the chemical vat at Ace Chemicals and turned him into a freak. Like, this is kind of where it looks like it's going, right? And so Duke is there. He's planting the bomb. And as he's about to leave, the big beefy guy that he stabbed in the eye with a knife, he's back. He's back for more. But Duke finally gets the final drop on him this time, sending him over the catwalk and into one of the vats of chemicals. And then he makes a hasty retreat from that facility as gunfire is coming at him. But then the thing explodes. And when he recovers and takes an adrenaline shot, he finds a little building and goes into it. And it's kind of a small research office, it looks like. Computers and stuff like that. And we see him like download something from a Cobra computer. And we see, I think, news clippings on the wall about this guy that he had the dog tags for. But then he gets attacked from behind by a scientist who looks just like this guy. So Duke ends up fighting him and then stabbing him in the neck with a shard of glass and killing him. And then he leaves the dog tags on top of this guy's body. So at first in the issue, I thought Duke was there to avenge the death of this guy that Cobra was at the hands of. But then this guy looked like that guy, and then Duke left the dog tags on him in the end. So I'm wondering if the guy actually turned to the Cobra side and Duke was going there to deal with the issue, so to speak. I'm not sure which way it is, but I'm leaning more towards the second one. But without the words, I couldn't really figure it out. But I'm leaning more towards the second one now, just based on I read it through a second time, and I was like, oh, okay. I think that's what it is, but I'm still not 100%. But either way, a cool issue. I just wish I had a bit of clarity on it. Next up, this one was really awesome. Really great character. Spirit. So Spirit was like a Native American who had this eagle. I forget the eagle's name now, though. And he was very in tune with nature and was good at sensing, tracking, that sort of thing. So we see, as this issue starts off, we see some young wolves running through the forest for their lives. A couple of them are kind of beat up and cut and stuff like that. Something's chasing them, obviously. And we see the first one come out onto a road, and we see Spirit's Jeep coming towards it. He stops, and there's a woman with him. I'm not sure who it is. They get out, and Spirit kind of cuddles up this wolf, wraps him in a blanket, and then starts looking around at the tracks and whatever. And he takes his eagle with him, and he goes into the forest, and then he sees a big, huge fucking footprint. He's like, ooh, what is this? So then he continues onwards. He starts finding evidence of clear cutting. Some trees have been cut down until finally he comes into a clearing, and there's a big facility there. And it's got this weird logo on it. And earlier in the forest, he found a Jeep all covered in scrub that had this same logo on it. It kind of looks like Cobra's, but it's not Cobra's. It's similar, but not the same. So he makes his way into this facility, and it basically looks like it's abandoned. There's rubble everywhere. It looks like people just kind of dropped what they were doing and left, sort of thing. So as he's exploring it, he hears something, and then this big mechanical contraption, probably 25 feet high, attacks him through a crack in this door, and Spirit has to fight this thing. But the thing's huge, and it's mechanical, so Spirit doesn't do that well. Gets buried under some rubble, and then the thing bats his eagle out of the air and takes it with him. But Spirit eventually comes to, makes his way out of the rubble, and then goes to attack this thing and starts sniping its faceplate, and breaks open part of the faceplate. And we can see that there is an eye back there, so it's some sort of large freakish being behind this suit. And Spirit eventually gets the drop on it and puts it down. There's never any light shed on what this thing is and what this facility is and who that group was and whatever, like anything like that. But he does get the drop on this monster, puts it down, and then him and his eagle are kind of recovering from the fight before Duke shows up with a rescue or an exfiltration, I guess, from his mission. And just before Spirit leaves, he leaves a little can of food on the floor, and the little wolves come out and start eating it up. So he's a man of nature, Spirit. He is a man of nature. Last one, my favorite one, fucking Roadblock, baby. Such a great character. Roadblock, um, I think he was from down in the south, and he had a bit of an accent, very similar to. He's like Gung Ho was the white version of Roadblock. They were like both from the south. They loved food and cooking, and they were both jacked guys, and they had big personalities. And Roadblock was just a tank. He was just a big, muscly guy who could lift 1 billion pounds and basically beat the shit out of a whole army with his bare hands. So, as this issue kicks off, we see a Cobra convoy on like a wintry mountain pass, and as it rolls along, we see that they have a Joe captive inside one of the vehicles, and it's Lady J. So she's kind of tied up, and she's sitting there, and we see Roadblock kind of with the binoculars going, oh, okay. So then he has notched some trees, and as the convoy gets closer, he starts knocking the trees over to destroy the vehicles and stop the convoy. And then he attacks, and he starts dragging people out of vehicles and fucking snapping necks and shit. And eventually, he gets to the vehicle where Lady J is being captive, and she, in the meantime, has been wreaking her own brand of chaos inside the vehicle once the convoy came to a stop, and the two of them are reunited. But in the meantime, Cobra has alerted Wild Weasel to what's going on with the convoy, and he gets in his trusty Cobra Rattler, my favorite G.I. Joe vehicle of all time. Don't have one, I'm so pissed. He takes off, and so it's just Lady J and Roadblock in the middle of a wintry forest against a Cobra Rattler and a highly trained pilot in the sky above them shooting a Gatling gun at them. So they try to escape on the G.I. Joe snowmobile, but get a rocket nearby and it kind of blows them over. So Roadblock is well known for his big, heavy, repeating machine gun. So he gets it on and he shoots all along the fuselage of the Rattler, and Wild Weasel eventually crashes, and then there's a fist fight. They put Wild Weasel down, and then they kind of build a fire and sit and recuperate and enjoy each other's company as they wait for exfiltration. Soon enough, I think it's Rock and Roll and Tunnel Rat that show up in a Tomahawk chopper and get them the hell out of there. So, yeah, the Silent Mission issue of G.I. Joe, the original number 21, was such a cool little piece that it's amazing to see that. I wonder when that would have been, 1984, 85. Like literally 40 years later, it's still inspiring. They just dropped 5 issues based on that, inspired by that sort of thing. So it's really cool to see, something hold up for that long and inspire, future authors and future writers and future artists to want to do similar thing, because each issue was done by a different artist, so they all had their own different visual aspect and stuff like that. So love it. I was really hoping for the next ongoing issue of G.I. Joe, but I must have just been a little too early for it when I went. So I'm expecting when I go at the beginning of June that I'll have at least 1, possibly 2 new Joe regular issues to review. But we're done the silent ones, so we won't have a big batch of Joes next month. Hopefully 2, but at least 1. So, but anyways, we'll find out in a week or so, because we're almost in June. If only Mother Nature knew that as well. Meow.